Soldiers, you have in 15 days won 6 victories, taken 21 stand of colors, 55 pieces of cannon, and several fortresses, and overrun the richest part of Piedmont. You have gained battles without cannons, passed rivers without bridges, performed forced marches without shoes, and bivouacked without strong liquors and often without bread. Thanks to you soldiers for your perseverance. Your grateful country owes its safety to you. But soldiers, you have yet done nothing, for there remains much to do. The army of the Kingdom of Sardinia was crushed. Bonaparte now focused all his attention on General Boullier's Austrian army. In the last days of April 1796, the belligerents were actively preparing for a decisive battle. General Bouvier believed that after the first stage of the campaign, the French would need time to restore their powers. During that break, Bouvier had hoped to get additional reinforcement from Tyrol. The Austrian general decided to wait for the arrival of reinforcements to his fortified position near Tortona. He gathered 27,000 soldiers here. However, General Bouvier was mistaken. Bonaparte decided not to lose the speed of the campaign and give not a single day to the Austrians to take rest. After being reinforced with an insignificant number of soldiers, Bonaparte started the march, leading his 36,000 soldiers. I have an intention to overtake the Austrians and wreck them even before you will reply to this letter. On April 30, the French divisions were already on the march. Lagarpe moved toward Acqui. Massena and Augereau moved toward Tortona. The Austrians did not expect such a rapid resumption of the campaign. Having learned of Bonaparte's offensive, General Bouvier changed his plan. He decided to retreat to the opposite bank of the river Po and take an advantageous position on the plain near Valenza. In this position, Bouvier would control a very important crossing of the river Po. In addition, on this plain, Bouvier could completely use his intimidating cavalry, which significantly outnumbered the French cavalry. Also, Bouvier had an advantage in artillery. In the fight on the plain, this would be a significant advantage. Thus, General Bouvier forced Bonaparte to plan his river crossing at the spot controlled by the Austrians. The Austrian general was completely assured in his position. Moreover, in the case of necessity, General Bouvier could retreat without let or hindrance to take a more advantageous position behind the river Ticino. In early May, the French division started to gather near the river Po. Bonaparte faced a difficult task. It was necessary to cross a wide river without having the means. Also, his enemy controlled the cross near Valenza and was fully ready to attack the French on the opposite bank of the river. Despite all threats, Bonaparte continued to concentrate soldiers near Valenza. The Austrians had no doubts that the French would cross the river Po exactly at this location. However, Bonaparte acted completely unexpectedly further on. He ordered General Serrurier to begin distractive maneuvers near Valenza. In the meantime, near the Casteggio village, Bonaparte formed an elite corps consisting of 5,000 men. This corps included only the best grenadier and carabinier companies. These were the bravest soldiers. According to Bonaparte's plan, this elite corps had to make a forced march to Piacenza, force the river, and seize a bridgehead on the opposite bank of the river. The rest of the French divisions would immediately follow the avant-garde corps. In case of success, Boulier's position would be extremely vulnerable. The rear and supply bases of the Austrian army would be at risk of attack. This maneuver would ruin all Austrian plans and put them into a very non-advantageous position. Bonaparte assigned the bravest officers to complete this risky maneuver. General Dalmont took command of the corps. General Lanus commanded the Carabiniers, and the Grenadier companies were commanded by a colonel, who had already shown himself well in the Battle of Dago. I command Citizen Lawn to go to Casteggio immediately and take command over the Grenadier companies as a part of the avant-garde corps. And Bonaparte wasn't mistaken by assigning these officers. The soldiers named this corps the Hellish Column. Even enemies admired the bravery with which Lannes's grenadier fought. The preparations were actively ongoing. General Bouvier did not suspect anything. He rested, assured that everything would be decided near Valenza. Bonaparte was terrific at hiding his true plans from the enemy. Preparatory maneuvers finished on May 5, and the avant-garde corps started their march at dawn the next day. Soldiers marched through Stradella directly to Piacenza. The soldiers walked over 50 kilometers in 36 hours. Having broken into Piacenza, the soldiers immediately seized the boats and started crossing the river. However, the enemy reacted sooner than expected. As soon as Bouvier found out about the French who appeared in Piacenza, he immediately sent General Liptai's corps of 8,000 soldiers to protect the bridgehead. However, the main Austrian forces remained where they were because Bouvier was still assured that the main river crossing would be near Valenza. In the meantime, the French avant-garde had already crossed the river Po. Colonel Lannes landed on the bank first, and his grenadier immediately rushed into battle with the enemy's avant-garde. On May 7, each side fought a series of battles for the bridgehead. Lannes and his grenadier were assuredly broadening the bridgehead. Lagarpe's division was already approaching Piacenza. Massena and Augereau also marched in this direction. Everything was going according to plan. Finally, General Bouvier understood what was happening and ordered his army to move to help Liptai. However, the Austrian army's position grew very dangerous. The French continued to cross the river Po very actively. On May 8, the Austrians decided to hold the French. General Liptai with his corps took a defensive position near the village of Fombio. He expected to wait in this position until General Bouvier's main forces arrived. However, no matter how hard the Austrian generals tried, Bonaparte's concentration of forces continued to outpace them. Lagarpe's division had enough time to cross the river, and at 1 p.m., Bonaparte made a crushing strike on General Liptai's corps. The French attacked in 3 columns. In the center, Lagarpe decisively led his division to the frontal attack in the village of Fombio. Lannes attacked from the left flank, and Lannes attacked from the right. After a bloody assault, they broke the Austrian defense. General Liptai's corps retreated, but Lannes energetically pursued them. The battle continued into the late evening, and in the skirmish of the late fight, the French army had one unfortunate event. Division General Lagarpe died tragically. But, despite this loss, the French gained what they wanted. They had completely crushed Liptai's corps before the main reinforcements appeared. Thus, the French army successfully forced the river Po. Bouvier's defensive position fell. My dear friend, we finally crossed the river Po. The second campaign started. Bouvier is confused and retreats. Probably, he would want to fight again because this man is cheeky enough. What we seized from the enemy is countless. We have several warehouses with wheat and flour. My soldiers eat fresh meat, and we also have a large stock of good wine. Discipline is being restored every day. Nevertheless, we still often have to shoot. If things go well enough, I can send you several million to Paris. This money will not be superfluous to the army of the Rhine. After the defeat near the village of Fombio, the Austrians had no chance of stopping Bonaparte. General Bouvier decided to save himself and quickly retreat to Lodi, so he could cross the Adda River there and stand up in defense. But Bonaparte did not stop. Having finished the river crossing, the French started to chase the Austrians. Lannes, Augereau, and Massena started a forced march to Lodi. In the early morning of May 10, the French army started to gather near Lodi. By that time, the Austrians had forced the Adda River, and so Bouvier thought that his army was saved. The only bridge across the river was guarded by 7,000 of General Sebetendorf's soldiers. Bouvier led the rest of the soldiers to the city of Crema. Here, he planned to bring his army to order, get some rest, and wait for reinforcements. Bouvier was still hoping to save his positions behind the Adda River. But Bonaparte had different plans. After arriving in Lodi, he decided to seize the bridge and strike the Austrian army again. Bonaparte ordered all his artillery brought to the bank. In the shortest manner, he was able to gather 24 cannons, and the French cannoneers immediately opened fire. The Austrians opened fire in return. An artillery duel began. At the same time, Bonaparte ordered his troops to form a grenadier column behind the city's walls to make a rapid attack. General Beaumont's cavalry was sent up the river to look for a river ford. At 5 p.m., artillery fire started to cease. Many Austrians decided that the battle was coming to an end. But suddenly, the attack signal sounded. La charge! And the grenadier column, appearing from the cover, rushed to the bridge. The Austrians did not expect the attack. However, while the column was crossing the 150-meter-long bridge, the Austrian cannoneers were able to load their guns and fire a salvo across the bridge. As a result, dense rows of the French were torn. The column stopped and the soldiers hesitated, waiting for the second Austrian salvo. Some soldiers jumped into the river. However, at this indecisive moment, something unexpected happened. The leader of the army headquarters rushed the bridge to encourage the soldiers. And Berthier's unexpected bravery had an explosive effect. Following Berthier, Massena also rushed to the bridge, followed by Lannoux, Lannes, and Chervigny. The generals grabbed the banners and rushed ahead screaming. Seeing the army headquarters leader and division generals on the bridge, holding banners in their hands, the soldiers experienced an instant influx of strength and rushed into the attack with full decisiveness. Some of the soldiers jumped off the bridge near the farthest bank and opened fire, shooting the Austrian cannoneers. Being covered by this fire, the grenadier column slipped through the bridge and immediately attacked the Austrians' positions. After an arduous battle, the French were able to push the Austrians back from the bridge. Still, General Seybatendorf did not want to retreat from their position. After bringing in reserve battalions, General Seybatendorf counterattacked. Bonaparte instantaneously reacted and introduced Augereau's division into the battle. Also, the French cavalry appeared on the flank. General Beaumont quickly decided to attack the Austrian right flank. Massena and Augereau repeated their attack on the center, and General Seybatendorf could not withstand this anymore. The Austrians quailed and retreated toward the city of Crema. The French pursued them until the evening, by which time they seized 1,700 POWs. In total, the Austrians lost 2,000 soldiers and 17 cannons. The French lost around 500 soldiers. General Bouvier, who dreamt of getting some rest, had to retreat again, and his morale was completely devastated. The Austrian generals were shocked by the course of events. Bonaparte gained another victory, and this victory had a huge impact on French morale. These days, the French army gained the feeling of absolute belief in victory and their warlord. After the Battle of Lodi, Bonaparte irreversibly won the hearts of his soldiers. Another of Bonaparte's offensives ended successfully. Bollier's crushed army retreated from Lombardy, and 5 days after the Battle of Lodi, the French headed towards Milan. On May 15, on a sunny Sunday morning, Bonaparte entered Milan under roaring applause and an endless number of flowers. The residents of Milan greeted the French with unimaginable delight. We are in Milan today. Our triumphant entrance into the city reminded me of how ancient warlords entered Rome. I doubt that I have ever seen a more delightful and amazing image before. Milan is a very beautiful city, very large, and with many people. Their dwellers love the French insanely, and it is impossible to talk about all the signs of loyalty that they showed us. Our successes are truly unbelievable. They will perpetuate the name of General Bonaparte, and one needs not have any illusions. We owe our victories only to him. Any other person in his place would be defeated, but he gains one victory after another. This campaign is the most beautiful and successful of all campaigns that were ever undertaken. That is a true picture of our position. However, despite all victories and successes, the French rejoiced too early. A true battle for Italy was only about to begin.